Good morning, Lauren.
Good morning, Ronan. How are you?
Thank you so much for being on Can't Shovel Hurricanes.
Thank you.
You are arguably the most important piece of the puzzle right now when it comes to real estate and everything alike. We've been chit-chatting and doing all kinds of stuff. It's not to mention that you're a rock star on the financing space. You're also a transplant, which fits the demographic of the listeners of this podcast. So Can't Shovel Hurricanes is all about people's transitioning into South Florida. Originally, it was for Canadians, but it looks like it's going to be, people from California, from New York, and they all have the same question, and it starts from the real estate component. But what used to be the first person you dealt with was that realtor. It was like, call it the top of the food chain when it came to it. Now it's financing, which is the hot topic, right? And people don't understand what services are available to them, what rates are really impacting into the market. How does it cost me? It's not necessarily about the purchase price, it's financing the debt, right? Mm-hmm. So if you were to tell me, if I was like a first phone call guy, just came out of Toronto and said, look, I need to buy X in this area, all right? How do you still pre-approve people?
Yes, that's the first thing we do.
All right. Talk to me about that.
Somebody from Toronto calls to buy a property here in Florida.
Right.
The first question is, what is the property going to be used for? Is it a vacation home? Is it an investment property?
Does it matter?
It does matter.
Okay.
Based on rates, based on loan to value, which is down payment percentages, etc. Gotcha. But long story short, the number one question is it a second home, owner-occupied, or investment? Once we figure that out, then we really explain how much down payment they need to put, what the estimated rates and APRs are, and what type of products we actually offer to these foreigners.
So based on those parameters, it depends. Does the rate determine, or does the rate get impacted by whether it's a vacation home or primary, or is it just a down payment?
Down payment mostly. For foreigners, it's mostly down payment. So for example, on a single family resident purchase for owner-occupied or second home, we can probably get up to 80% financing. For investment, it's probably going to go down by 5%. So you're looking at 75% financing. But usually the foreigners are already financially capable and willing because they're usually selling their asset, for example, in Toronto or in New York or in California. If they have one home, the majority of the people are selling their equity in the property that they currently live in and bringing in that equity here in America.
Right.
So the 20, 25%, 30% down is usually not an issue. And then the programs are actually for foreigners very similar to Canadian products.
So hold on, you're a broker, right? You deal with all the banks, all the institutions.
I work for a broker.
Okay, correct? What's the company?
Hypotec Inc. is the brokerage.
Okay.
And I'm an MLO, which stands for a mortgage loan originator.
Okay.
I have 21 years of experience in the financing world.
Okay.
For the last 6 years or 5 years, I was actually a licensed originator in the state of Florida. But prior to that, I've always worked in America. Even living in Canada, I've always worked in America.
I'm going to probe you about that. I want to know your transition.
I'll give you my whole transition in a minute. So yeah, it's 21 years. I'm in the real estate financing world, from management to pipeline management to employee management, etc. And then at one point, once I gathered all this information and this knowledge, I told myself, you know what? I'm moving to Florida. Let me become an originator as well. And now I originate as well, and of course oversee the actual brokerage that I work for.
Amazing. How many people do you oversee right now?
Today, we have about 12 or 15 or so mortgage loan originators.
So if people from the podcast want to contact you, do they contact you, or are you going to give them to one of the people that work with you? Or are you going to be the guy?
I'm going to be the guy.
All right, good.
Correct.
So that's I think what
I'm
people
the guy
want to
with
know.
over 20 years of experience, and anybody that calls me, I
All right,
take care
plug it.
of.
How do they get a hold of you?
So how do they get a hold of me? The phone call is the best way.
What number?
305-690-1424.
All right, I'll leave that in the podcast notes. I'll tell you guys, because I have been picking this guy's brains for the last little while. He's been nothing but accommodating to me, and to be honest with you, I haven't even thrown him an official deal from my end, because I have a very unique proposition where the expansion plan of Fishman & Kosia, the real estate team from Toronto into South Florida, has been one that is it's not, I don't want to say it's challenging. It is different from, we have a unique client base of people that we worked with and trusted for so long. And because we had just kind of entered this market officially, we want to make sure that we've got everything aligned and ready to go, and we can service them in the same way that we did from Toronto. The best way to start off with that was by, finding the right partnerships in the form of agents that will service that client. But what we've also found is that there is a massive inconsistency in service level from the agents here, where they either get too busy and that things have kind of cooled down in the market, or they're not what they claim to be. And then we become, the bottleneck for that. And that was what was happening for years, that we were sending deals down into South Florida. And that's no longer the case because I'm here now. Mm-hmm. So it's really important to put together that team that can service the client from start to finish. And we have a very common need is like this. People are saying, I want to buy a place in Florida right now because I want to have it when I get a little bit older. And the demographic is anywhere between, like, let's say 35 all the way to 60. And they're saying, but I don't want to use it all the time because I'm vacationing and I'm going to different places and stuff like that. We tell them, great. Here's what we're going to do for you. We're going to find you that magical property that you need. We're going to find somebody who's going to rent it out and pay down your mortgage for, how many years that you want it to. Mm-hmm. Not only that, we'll probably leave some cash flow in your bank account at the end. So when you come down, you don't have to spend any of your own cash at this crazy exchange rate specifically to Canadians. And then 10, 25 years down the line, when you want to come use it, you've got a place that's paid for and for likely worth double what you paid for it.
Yeah.
And even if you want to use it for a month or two, we got you because we can property manage that for you and you have somebody you can trust on the ground. Mm-hmm. But what people don't know right now is what their cost of borrowing is. So talk to me about the different products and what's available for Canadians, because I don't have any credit in the States.
Yeah.
Right. I'm an 18-year-old college student here essentially, right? I have my Canadian credit that's solid, but nothing here. So how would a Canadian go about starting to get financing?
Great question. First and foremost, I'm Canadian myself, so I'm born and raised in Montreal, Canada.
Are you a Habs fan?
I am a Habs fan.
All right, podcast over.
I'm sure you're a Toronto fan.
Absolutely. Bleed blue, buddy. Bleed
there
blue.
You go. So knowing what the Canadians have access to in Canada when it comes to mortgages makes it a lot easier to explain what they have access to here in America, where they don't have credit or any income.
Right.
Being a Canadian myself, I created a niche with foreign national financing.
How'd you do that?
I obviously have a big network in Canada.
Okay.
So I finance a lot of people from Toronto, a lot of people from Montreal, some out west, but the majority of business is derived by Toronto and Montreal.
Right.
So what we have access to these foreigners is very similar products that Canada has.
Okay.
3-year fixed, 5-year fixed, 7-year fixed, and what Canada does not have are famous American 30-year fixed.
Which is
mortgage.
what I'm on. I mean, I locked a 30-year and a 3.2, which is like, wow, I'm never selling that property.
There you go. So right now, as a foreigner looking to buy a property over here in America, in Florida particularly, we're looking at a 3-year, 5-year, 7-year, and 30-year fixed, all amortized on 30 years.
Okay.
Rates are varying between 5.875 to 6.875, depending on the bank, depending on the market conditions, depending on the product you take. And then there's an APR. An APR is called the annual percentage rate, which is the interest rate plus the costs, which is what I'm going to fill in right now.
Okay.
Costs in Florida are not cheap. It's like similar to...
Define the costs. What do you mean by costs?
So you are buying a property for $500,000.
Okay.
The cost that you incur as a buyer are title fees, also known as notary fees in Canada.
And they're different by county.
They're different by county,
right.
Correct. Then you also have what we call the county and state tax stamps, which is technically taxes that you pay to the state and to the county that you're buying in. On top of those, you have whatever lender or broker fees. So all in all, usually the formula is about 3 to 3.5% of your actual purchase price. So let's say you're buying a property for $500,000,
right,
and you need to put 30% down. That's $150,000.
Yeah.
You'll probably have to have about $160,000 to $165,000 all in.
Including your expenses.
Everything.
Right.
You get your keys. Now, some deals could be less, some deals could be more, depending on the actual deal that we're talking about. Condominiums versus single-family residences. If you're looking at a multi-million-dollar property or a $300,000 property, obviously that could vary greatly, especially with the attorney fees and the title fees, because some title companies charge more versus others charge less, depending on the complexity of the actual deal itself.
Right.
We, as a mortgage loan originator, I believe in longevity, and I believe in long-term relationships with my clients, my realtors, my title agents, etc. So I'm more of a volume guy where I do not make a large commission on every deal. I rather make a smaller commission to be able to cater to the client and make sure I win the deal, but more importantly, really go out there and have a long-term relationship with that client that will refer me his brother or his uncle or his aunt.
So how does having a low commission translate specifically to the client?
In the state of Florida, mortgage brokers or mortgage loan originators have to charge a fee to make a living.
Okay.
Some of those fees can be paid by the bank, and other fees have to be paid by the buyer, depending on the deal.
Can you give me an example of what that looks like in practice?
Yes. So let's say a foreign national is buying an investment property. Okay. If he's buying an investment property, I, the mortgage loan originator, can get paid a percentage of my commission from the bank.
And what's a standard rate that you would charge?
Usually we would charge anywhere between 1.5 to 2.5% broker fee.
Of the loan amount.
Of the loan amount.
Right.
But what we try to do is negotiate with the bank to try to get the majority of that commission from the bank.
Right.
And not from the buyer. So for example, the buyer is not paying his real estate agent. The seller is paying his real estate agent. So we try to keep our cost as low as possible for the buyer to really only pay the mandatory fees.
Fair.
And the mandatory fees are the title fees, the attorney fees, the county and state tax stamp fees. All of these fees, no matter who you go to, what bank you go to, you'll have to pay the exact same fee regardless.
All right. Let's put a real life scenario right now. So I have multiple clients right now looking specifically for oceanfront properties because that seems to be the most popular ones. They're also asking for buildings that have limited to no rental restrictions. Some are out talking about Airbnb, but then, we've given some unique solutions to people where they're like, I want to Airbnb it, but I also want to use it for a couple of months out of the year. I don't want to share my stuff with them. And I'm like, look, you buy a storage unit, and you swap out the mattresses, and you have very basic dishes in there that you're willing to say goodbye to. It's just cost of doing business, right?
A lot of this.
Right. So this is exactly what I wanted to know. What sort of mortgage product would you tell a Canadian, and what would they be eligible for, where they can get the highest kind of like ROI from that building? What would you suggest for people to do?
What we suggest today, first off, it's a great business. A lot of our clients are making very good money on their cash on cash return. I think the key.
Oh my God, it's amazing the stuff that we're getting right now.
There you go.
It's wild, and we property manage it for them.
The key word is cash on cash return.
Yes.
So for example, they're finding something oceanfront. I mean, the second you say oceanfront, I'm assuming the purchase prices are fairly big, but it doesn't matter.
It is, but there's still pockets of value. It really is relative to the building, how it's managed, and stuff like that.
So let's say a building allows short-term rental.
Yes.
On the water, $1 million purchase price.
Yep.
On a short-term rental in America, it's called a non-conventional condo, or also known as a non-warrantable condo.
Okay.
A non-warrantable condo sounds like it's bad, but it's not. It's just a figure of speech, meaning you cannot go to the regular lenders. You got to go to a different lender that allows short-term rentals.
Cool. Okay.
We have those lenders for our foreign nationals because that's the majority of people doing it are foreigners that are buying, like you said, to get some ROI, but also use it 30 days out of the year.
And then eventually keep it, and it's paid for in full,
Done.
and they've got a place that's amazing and likely worth, double, triple, because overall, like, Florida is just going north.
It's definitely going to go north
because everything is either unaffordable or you just can't find it.
Correct. So on a non-warrantable condo or a condo that allows short-term rental, you're looking at a 30% down payment, maybe 35%, depending on the deal, depending on the location, and depending on the building itself. Some lenders pre-approve buildings and eyes closed, they can finance 70% of the acquisition. Some other lenders might drop it by 5% because of the short-term rental component.
That's 35% in is what you're looking at. If we kind of, and that's something that you can almost guarantee to get people approved for.
Guaranteed.
Done.
Correct.
Right. What kind of rate?
Low sixes.
Okay.
Today.
What does that translate to a monthly payment for each 100,000, for example?
About $620, $618 a month.
At today's rate.
At today's rate.
Okay, so let's use a live example. 35%, just hypothetically.
Yep.
$1 million purchase. So we got $350,000 in. We got $650 on the loan. Plus, we're looking at the rates that you're saying. So you're talking about a $4,000 serviceable mortgage.
$3,800 about, yeah.
Plus HOAs, plus insurance, plus any other fees that you may have.
Call it you're at $6,000 all in.
Yeah, a waterfront property today will likely rent out somewhere, and I'm not even including property management fees, which are approximately 10%. You're looking at $10,000 bare minimum.
Bare minimum.
I
have investors.
And that's not an Airbnb. That's a long-term-ish rental.
I have investors and family members very close to me that bought waterfront condos that allow short-term rentals. And the last 3 months, their average nightly rental was $792 a night.
Wow. Now, that's gross, so people don't fall in love with the number. But, wow. I mean,
792 minus 20%. I mean, you're still looking at $600 a night.
Right. And the beautiful part about the mortgages here, and stop me if I'm wrong, and it's different from Canada, and I'm not sure whether you're talking about these products, but if you have excess, liquidity, meaning you've got made more money from the rentals, can you pump that into your mortgage on an ongoing basis?
Yes, you could.
And any of these mortgage products that you talked about?
Some of these mortgages have penalties like Canada.
3-month interest?
Could be 3 months, could be 6, it could be percentage-wise.
Even if you're making a smaller payment, I'm not talking about paying in full.
So that's what I was going to get to.
Okay.
Here's what's nice about these products. So let's say a short-term rental condo, we get the deal, 35% down, 6.25% approximately.
Okay.
That product will allow you to pay down up to 20% of your balance.
And that's on principal.
On principle,
Okay.
during the period that you have a penalty on the product. Now, there are also products that have no penalty, which doesn't exist in Canada.
Right.
So, for example, and this is where we actually cater to our clients, we ask them what their goals are. Is their goal long-term or is their goal short-term? If their goal is short-term, then sometimes they're better off paying the bank a little bit more money at the closing, but knowing that they have zero penalty whatsoever.
Gotcha.
Meaning, you buy the house in January, you flip the house in April, you're not paying the bank $1 of penalties. Right. So there are products that don't have penalty at all.
And you counsel all your clients based on their needs. Like you ask them what their intentions are.
Everything.
And you talk them through it, right? I've picked your brain for quite a bit of time. And I get it because, like I said, we have an influx of people looking for this sort of stuff. Be honest with you, I think I'm being a little bit of a speculator in some ways because, and I'd love to hear your opinion on this, but as rates have been climbing, as you have called it an uncertain market condition, I feel like Florida is definitely from the peak, which was last year, call it April of 2022, has taken a little bit of a dip, but it hasn't taken as much of a hit as everywhere else because there's still this overwhelming demand of people buying here. I feel like the market's going to, I don't want to say call it quote unquote correct, but I feel like it might. What are your thoughts?
It's a good question. For now, where the rates are at, the people that own property are not selling the property.
Yeah.
So supply is very, very, very low right now.
Absolutely.
As long as supply stays low, values will stay high. Once rates go down, this is where it gets very interesting, that if rates go down at the end of 2024, middle of 2024...
Is that what you're thinking is going to happen?
That's my get. I mean, last week, the Fed advised that they raised the rates by 0.25%, and there are chances to do only one more raise in the entire year. So if we get one more raise in 2023, or maybe no more raises, all depending on whatever market conditions we live in, I predict that middle to end of 2024, the rate market will definitely soften.
And then are you looking at more refinance business at that point?
100%.
And how does that play out? Talk to me about a refinance. Like, how much equity do you have to be buried into the property, or how much value do you need to add in order to refinance?
So in a refinance, there's two types of transactions. There's a rate and term refinance, which technically takes somebody that today has a 6.25% and fast track 2 years from today.
Okay.
You have now a availability to get a 4.25%. That's a rate and term refinance. So you pay off the 6.25%, you renew it with a brand new mortgage, and that new mortgage has a lower rate, which in turn gives you a lower payment.
Okay.
Another term of refinancing is a cash out refinance.
Okay.
So for example, you bought the property for $1 million, you put 35% down, you have $650. Fast track 2 years, your balance now is $620 or $600. But that property today is worth $1.2 million. You can actually extract a percentage of your equity in cash to maybe invest it in another property.
Yes.
That's what a lot of people have been doing and have done in the last 3 years because values were increasing so fast.
Right.
So people were literally taking that equity, buying more property. The famous old school real estate growing trick, right? So that's what I would probably recommend to a lot of investors. Or if people are buying vacation homes, then you just keep your equity in your equity and you just call it a day. You refinance, lower your rate, and get a lower monthly payment, which everybody would like.
All right. So as a foreign national, are you limited to the number of properties that you can buy and qualify for?
Depending on which bank. Some banks have a maximum of 3 mortgages per foreigner.
Okay.
Other banks have no maximum. Some other banks have 10.
Do they charge a higher rate?
They don't. No,
Okay.
It's just a guideline within their guidelines.
Right.
What's nice about us as well is we've realized a lot of foreigners, which is something I would like to touch on. I'm not an accountant. I'm not an attorney. But a lot of foreigners are buying property under LLCs.
Yeah.
And it is recommended to have maybe a multi-member LLC, so husband and wife or husband and somebody else, whatever it is. And the main reason is if the foreigner is not looking to actually move to America and just have this property as an investment,
Yes.
like you were saying, Airbnb, make some money, whatever it is, use it for the family for 30 days out of the year. When you sell that asset, if your title ownership is under your personal name, you are actually
Subject to FERPA?
Exactly. FERTA. Correct.
FERTA.
Correct.
Excuse me. Yeah.
Yes, you nailed it.
And a lot of people don't know about this,
lot
and they
of
don't talk about this. And again, I'm not an accountant or a lawyer. We both have to clarify. I'm a broker,
Correct.
real estate broker. You're a mortgage broker.
I'm a mortgage loan originator. but
Excuse
yes,
me. Sorry.
yes.
Yeah, I get that wrong all the time. But this is a lot of things that people don't talk about. There's a withholding tax that the
Correct.
IRS will just hold off the top.
Correct. So depending on the sale of the volume sale, so it could be like, I think if it's under 500,000 or something like that, it's a 10%. It could go up to 20% withholding.
Yeah.
And today the IRS is very busy. It is what it is. They have a lot of backlog from COVID. Their production is not as fast as it used to with FERTA. So back in the day, you were waiting maybe 6 months to get back your money or your withholding, depending on your actual capital gain. Today, people are waiting over 1 year to get that money back. So imagine you buy $1 million property, you think that you're getting $500,000 back of equity, but you're getting $300 because $200 is being sent to the IRS, which is okay. They'll give it back to you, except if you made a lot of money, they're going to tax you. But at the end of the day, it's recommended to not buy under your personal name.
Does a 1031 exchange apply to foreign nationals? And if you want to explain what a 1031 exchange is to people. Again, we're not accountants. We're just two guys talking that have experience in the field.
Yes. So 1031 exchange, I'm going to explain what it is. The question you asked exactly, if a foreigner can do it, I don't know.
Like the way I think about it is, let's say I bought an asset for $500,000. It's now worth $1 million. Do I get smoked by FERTA right away, or do I have that 121 days or a leniency period where I could buy another asset for $1 more than what I sold it for.
I've never done a 1031 for a Canadian or a foreigner.
Okay. That's actually, I'm going to have an incredible accountant on here. I'm going to have more than one, and I'm going to grill them on this.
You should grill them on
because
that.
there's so much to be had here.
For
There's
Americans, I'll give you a quick little rundown.
Tell me how an American would run with it.
So first and foremost, what a lot of people don't know is that you need to do a 1031 exchange for a similar type of dwelling.
Yes.
Okay.
Condo to condo.
Correct.
Right? But can you go to condo to freehold,
You could.
Town?
Residential.
Okay. Yeah, okay.
You can't go residential to commercial.
Yeah.
And
right.
you can't go commercial to residential.
Right.
You need to figure that out with your accountant, number one. Number two, a 1031 is great because you're taking all of your cash from the sale of the property and you're dumping it into your next investment, which obviously...
Without paying any of the tax.
Zero.
Now, is your depreciation also deferred? Meaning forgiven if you've depreciated over the last 5 years?
I don't know.
So that's something that
I
also have.
Question.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I know that in Canada, the only time you get some sort of you get a tax break is on your personal residence, because you can't deduct any of your mortgage interest like you can in the United States.
Correct.
And if you sell your primary residence and you bought it for $200, now it's worth $3 million, which is, I mean, people have been there for 30 plus years. That's happened. It's tax free and clear in your pocket money.
Correct. And I'm not an accountant, but I believe if you are American or permanent res selling your owner occupied property, if you're married, you have a tax break up to $500,000 of profit. So, for example...
So stay married.
Exactly.
Right.
Let's say you have a property and you sell and you made $600,000.
Right.
You will not pay capital gains on that 600. You'll only pay capital gains on that 100.
Right.
Which is cool. But back to foreigners, really, I think the number one thing to do is to always understand what their needs are.
Right.
And then build a plan around it.
Right.
And if their needs are not realistic, then we tell them that it's not realistic.
Which is where we join forces,
Correct.
right? I mean, we look at, somebody says, I want a waterfront property in Miami, which is where you're from.
Correct.
And I only want to pay $500,000 and I only want to have this one. I'll say, great, let's build a time machine. We go back 30 years. I buy you that property, no problem.
Correct.
Right.
Exactly. So the goal is to really set the precedence at the beginning as a team with the real estate agent, the mortgage loan originator, and the client.
Right.
Once everybody is on the same page, it's plug and play, and it's a pleasure.
And there's so much opportunity here.
A lot.
And the common mistake that people, especially in this market that I see, and it's applicable on both sides of the border, is people are waiting for the bottom. And what I tell them is, first of all, if you're buying a primary residence, your home is a lifestyle choice, not an investment. So you either choose to pay somebody rent and paying down somebody else's mortgage, or you get to live for yourself. Now, if I were to buy a property, let's say in Boca where I live, or I bought a property in, I don't know, Jupiter or Port St. Lucie, I can buy a comparable, identical almost property, but it'll be worth way less because of its location, right?
Correct.
Location. That's a lifestyle choice. When people are buying investments, it's a number-driven sort of situation.
Absolutely.
Where how much rental income can this get? And how much is it my expenses, and what's the in-between? And in Canada, I can tell you right now, people are not even breaking even, especially with the multiple rate hikes that have happened over the past 18 months or so. And it's a bit of a situation, but they haven't really fixed the overall problem where there's not enough supply for the demand. And I could tell you that mortgage costs have gone up, material costs have gone up, land acquisition costs have gone up, labor has gone up. So it's going to translate to the consumer. So they just really kicked the can down the road a little bit. Now, in the United States, you run into the same sort of situation. The difference that I see here is there's way more opportunity here. And if you're looking at the long run, being the long run between 3 to 5 years, it's a no-brainer play. So people are looking for that bottom. If it ever does hit the bottom, by the time you're buying, it's too late.
Correct.
Can't time it.
You can't time the bottom, especially in the state that we're talking about.
Right.
Florida has been blessed the last 3 years.
You've seen a transition. You moved from Montreal to here. What was it like when you moved on the real estate front? Maybe talk about the personal front, with your family if you want. And what's it like now, and what do you see?
It's a very good question, and it's a big subject these days.
Yeah.
How the South Florida market has changed dramatically. So I live in Miami. I was the preferred mortgage loan originator for many large developers in Miami.
Okay.
That built towers, 50 stories, condos, etc. And when I just moved here, which is when I became that preferred lender, the 90% of the people buying were foreigners from South America, foreigners.
That is a
from
major market in Miami, right?
major market, but it was a problem. Foreigners from Europe.
Why?
The buildings were empty. And this is why the Florida market has changed. The South Florida market has changed.
Interesting.
Today, because of COVID, because of people coming and buying their owner-occupied condos, their owner-occupied homes.
Right. They're not vacation transient
They're no
properties,
longer empty buildings that, yes, are sold out, but there's actually life. There's actually families. There's children.
Right.
There's no people leaving and ditching the property.
And you can't shovel hurricanes when you're living in Florida.
There
right?
you go. So that is where we believe there is no bottom. And there is no cyclical type of condo crash, because a lot of the people that are actually living in condos today are actually there
Right.
12 months out of the year.
Right.
So, and that's huge, especially for South Florida. And South Florida being Palm Beach, Broward, and Miami-Dade, which is where I focus the majority of my business in.
Right.
Do I do business sometimes in Northern Florida? At times, but the majority of the business are those tri-counties.
Where do you see the biggest area of growth?
Broward and Palm Beach, Miami-Dade is Miami-Dade, right? It's always going to be one of that wild, wild west investment hub where there's money to be made. But the growth is right here in Palm Beach.
That's where I keep hearing. It's what I keep saying. It's what I keep seeing.
Palm
Even though I
Beach.
bought right at the peak, and I've done multiple deals with people who feel like, yeah, I bought at the peak. I'm like, are you selling now? They're like, no. I'm like, you know what? It didn't really drop.
It's not.
But the rental rates have gone boom.
I know, rental is
Skyrocket.
just out of control. And that's where a lot of people are investing, because they believe that the rentals are going to stay high, pardon me. The one thing that I want to touch on, and this is hopefully going to motivate these investors and people that want to buy, is that we need to remember that Florida real estate has been very cheap for a very long time.
Yes. Undervalued for sure.
My brokerage that I work for is licensed in California, is licensed in Texas, is licensed in New York. Real estate in these areas is double what you pay over here. Some places in LA County that are close to the Beverly Center, things like that, you're buying an 1,800 square foot home for $2.5 million.
Wow.
So we believe, maybe because we live here, maybe because boots are on the ground, maybe because this is how we make our living, but when you speak to a lot of professionals with a lot of experience, that's the number one point that everybody reminds the buyers, that real estate compared to these other big hubs is low. In New York, you're buying a 2,000 square foot apartment in the city for $4 million.
Wow.
So
What does that translate generally per square foot? Are you familiar with the rates?
I mean, in New York, you're paying $2,000 a foot.
Wow.
Over here in Florida, you can still find new developments with good potential at $800 to $1,200 a foot. And I'm talking nice, high-end buildings. You can still find $500 a foot, but maybe out more west or whatever it is.
So I'll tell you something really interesting. My real estate team, including my brother, we built a very successful niche within the pre-construction space. And we worked hand in hand with developers for very long, where we would do volume sales. We would get certain incentive for our clients. And as the years progressed from when we started doing it, it used to be about how many deals could you do. And then it became, if you can even get an allocation, because it became so competitive. And a lot of that competitive pressure came from mainland China, and they were a major consumer of a lot of Canadian product and still are. But where I see a massive opportunity, and you said you work with a lot of these developers, is doing volume sales with these developers, where we can also guarantee their rentals, we can guarantee their property management, we can guarantee they get the unit of their choice, and they basically park their money in a market that might be a high interest rate environment or otherwise, and then they will have this incredible product that's brand new.
You're investing your money in your own REIT.
Bingo. And
that's really
and
what
that's
you're
it.
doing.
And that's what we want to try to impart on people, because a lot of the psychology of a foreign buyer is, well, I'm not there to manage it, and I don't want to have to come to Florida for the rest of my life. I'm not at that stage in my life. And we say, amazing. Let us take care of it. Let it pay for yourself, plus give you spending cash when you touch down. And we get you that product that you want, and you don't have to do anything except putting the down payment, come and sign the paperwork, the rest is on us.
There you go.
And that's the message that we're trying to relay to people, because there is pent-up demand. But I'll be honest with you, the pre-construction product and the relationships that we're trying to build is something that it's going to take some time to work on, because we have to be comfortable with the developer and the product, and then you have something specific, which is the HOAs, which is in Canada you don't have anything like that, and HOAs really can be a major deterrent and bring the value of properties down 100%. If they become, negligent at first, and then some of them become overly greedy. I've heard all kinds of horror stories.
It's definitely something that you need to pay attention to as a real estate agent and as a buyer. So, I have a lot of buyers that like this building, and I tell them, you may like it, but I here to advise you what you should and shouldn't do. Right. I know a lot about this building. I don't necessarily recommend it because maybe the HOA doesn't have enough reserves. Today, with that whole collapse of that building, a lot of insurance companies and a lot of HOAs are tightening their belts.
What a tragedy, man. What a tragedy.
Crazy.
And from what I understand, is that
it was deferred maintenance.
Is that what it was?
It was for sure deferred maintenance. There's a lot of, again, we won't get into this too big, but from what I heard and from what I understood, there was a lot of deferred maintenance that was known that should have been fixed. And, that's really what you need to be careful with. It's to make sure that the management company taking care of your home, because it is your home, is good, is on the up and up, is a reputable management company. And if you buy in a building with a solid team in back, then your investment is safe.
And who would you defer to that between you need to have a mortgage broker plus realtor that know their shit.
Correct.
Like, there's so many people. I remember when I was looking for properties years ago, the market was so inflated and so hot that I couldn't get an agent on the phone. Ironically, a year later, now they're all calling me. So they put it on the CRM, but now they're calling me, right? So it was still really terrifying, because a lot of these people were not subject matter experts. They were hobbyists, right? You can't stop it. People get their real estate license. They do what they do, but you can get looped in. And I know a few people that have fallen into that. It wasn't by us, and we're very careful with where we do business. You get into an HOA that has become so restrictive and so, I don't want to say negligent, but they certainly bully the residents into doing all kinds of things that they don't want to do, because I think they intentionally want people to get out of that building so they can buy the product and own. And I've seen indirectly, I haven't been here long enough to see the recourse of that happen. But if you don't have an agent that knows the ins and outs of the HOA and the building, you can fall into a real trap here, right?
100%.
And a lot of people are just transient, right? They do a deal, they're in and out, they have a full-time job, and this is our career, this is our job, this is our reputation, right?
And this is why the banks and us demand what we call here a condo questionnaire and their approved budget of the year. So we see exactly their budget, what their expenses are, what their...
And you audit that statement?
We have to.
Oh, wow. By law?
Not by law, but by the banking laws.
Right. Okay. So there's... Okay.
We audit...
That's great to know.
Of course.
I didn't know that.
We audit the approved budget. And at the end of the budget, usually there's total expenses and total reserves.
Right.
You usually want to see 10% of reserves. So if your budget has $6 million in expenses, we want to see a minimum of $600,000 of reserves. Cash in the bank. That's usually the qualification. Now, of course, if somebody loves the property and there's $480,000 of reserves, but there's an upside on the unit and the unit is beautiful and they just love it and they don't care about it, we have banks that finance it all day long, but usually the play is 10% of reserves. And the questionnaire asks all these important questions. Do you have any deferred maintenance? Do you have any special assessments? Do you have any litigation? If you do have litigation, what kind of litigation? We are in America. People like to litigate. So is it a slip and fall? No big deal. But is it maybe a problem with a structural issue that the HOA is suing the developer? All of these things are things that we have mastered in understanding what's good and bad. And of course, if the property is financeable, it is up to the consumer to decide what they want, but we will always advise them what our concerns are. And very important. And that's why we've been in the business for 21 years,
Right.
because people trust us. People like that we look out for them for these things. Miami, Florida, in general, South Florida is a very unique market. The majority are towers. You don't have enormous amounts of single-family residences. So the tower that you want to buy in, it's important that we have your back and to make sure that we get you the best deal when it comes to all facets.
I think what a lot of people, especially that aren't familiar with the landscape in South Florida, and this is not just applicable to Canadians, it's applicable across the board. Even, south of the border, there are major buyers. Don't realize how nuanced it is in South Florida. And then it goes by county, and then it goes by cities. And the cities here can have 10, 20 million people. People don't realize how
huge.
Maybe not that big, but
No.
You got 25 million people in Florida and common. But you got a couple of cities here that got a couple of million people.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
It's Miami-Dade is enormous. Sometimes you're driving out west and you're still
The traffic
in Miami.
is crazy.
It's crazy.
But if you're a Canadian looking to buy down here, you've got two things that you have in Canada. For the most part, outside of minor deviations, you have freehold and you have condos.
Yeah.
That's it. Here, you've got gated communities, HOAs, 55 and over, 65 and over, waterfront properties, country club properties. And that's just tip
Golf
the iceberg.
properties,
Golf properties,
which
right?
is
You get all
huge.
that, and then you get them within different counties, and then you get them within different districts, and then it becomes a lot more nuanced. So if you don't know what you're talking about, I remember looking at properties, and I'm like, there were homes that were 5,000 or 6,000 square feet, decked out to the nines, and I'm talking about the peak of the market, and it was like only around $800 to $1 million. I'm like, what's up here? And then you realize the association fees are $150,000 annual membership.
Those are usually
fees.
the golfing communities.
Yeah. So if you're not, that's the one that slaps you right in the face, and you can see that it's obvious that something is different.
Yes.
But there is a lot more that's not obvious, that if you do not have the right team in place to give you counsel on that, you can fall into some trouble.
100%. And
Right.
this is why we believe in experience, and experience is definitely needed, especially in this market where a lot of agents, unfortunately, are not as busy as they used to. So you need to really focus on guys like you that have that experience, that have that knowledge, that have that backbone of understanding market conditions, supply and demand, and the communities to invest in. In Boca, for example, you have many beautiful communities, but you have a lot of these golfing communities that, you're, like you said, you're picking up properties for $700,000, but then your membership fees are astronomical.
Right.
So you got to be careful.
Talk to me on a personal level, if you still remember. And
Sure.
I'm sure, you moved down here from Montreal.
Yeah.
Why?
I always worked in the American market. I was managing a brokerage, pipeline management, banking relationships, processing loans, etc., since I was 18 years old.
Okay.
So at one point, we decided to apply to move to America, and I got approved on an L1 visa. I started working for the company here, Hypotec Inc.
Right.
And it was the best move I ever did, because I was always working in America and traveling to Los Angeles, traveling to Florida, traveling to here and this and that. I said, why? Let's just move, boots on the ground. So we decided to move to Florida.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sure you have a lot of family back in Montreal.
All my family.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Except my brother, but yes.
Okay. And did they think you were crazy for moving down here, or were they jealous that you moved down here? Was it really, really hard? Do you have young kids?
I have young kids, but I had all my kids here in Florida. Yes, I wasn't married when I moved to Florida. I got married to a girl that was born and raised in Florida.
Amazing, because those are unicorns. There aren't too many of those.
They're
Most
not.
people
She
are
was born
transplant.
and raised in Aventura, Florida.
Wow.
And grew up her whole life there. Yes.
Oh my God. Yeah.
So I was fortunate to have that because she knows a lot of people. But in general, people did not believe that I was going to be long term because I'm somebody that has a great network in Montreal till today, which is why I do so much foreign national Canadian loans. But yeah, I mean, after 7 years of being in Florida,
Would you ever go back?
No.
Why?
Lifestyle.
Okay, I anticipated that. Can you tell me what that means?
It's just, I love the snow. I'm a snowmobiler.
Ew!
Yeah.
Oh, fuck.
You'd
rather shovel than, oh my God.
I love the snow. It's something I do miss.
All right.
But the lifestyle, the opportunity.
Define that. Explain that. Because that's something that I talk to people. And to Canadians, especially like you Montrealers, I know Montrealers kind of move. Most people think Toronto is the center of the universe when you live there, right?
Toronto's big. It's got a lot of potential.
Yeah.
It's a great city. I
Yeah.
mean,
But what do you mean by opportunity here relative to Montreal?
In our world, in the real estate world, the opportunity is huge. What do I mean by it? I think it's the sheer volume of population, the amount of people.
Right.
If you have a business sense in any business and you can go out there and show yourself and show your product and show your skills, there's a high probability that people will react to it. Versus, villages like Montreal, it's a great... it's a village compared to these places like Florida. Montreal's a small city.
Right.
So if you have a great product, how much demand are you going to get?
Right.
Versus if you have a great product over here, a local product or a local service that you're offering, there's a high probability that you will be more successful.
Did you have anybody doubting you when you moved down here and said, "Oh, you'll be back in 6 months"?
There's always truth in some jokes, but yeah, I got a couple of those comments. But again, people believed in me because I was in the business for so long. I was not coming to America blind. I was coming to America for the sole reason that I felt like I could excel and I can grow bigger being boots on the ground in America. That was the main reason for the move. Because at the end of the day, was I doing business over the phone, over the internet, traveling here and there? Yes. But that was more management, right? Management of these loan officers in America, management of the pipeline, of the loans, processing. But once I decided to become a mortgage loan originator myself, how can you get so much business living in Montreal but originating in Florida? It just doesn't work. Right. So I decided to really take what I felt I was good at or what I could be good at, which is actually offering these mortgages to people versus managing the back end. And thank God, it's definitely been a great...
I could tell you that I'm so grateful that I connected with you.
Me too.
That I talked to you because just on a personal level, I mean, outside of the business end of things, a lot of my client base is also family and people that are really important to me. Just like my clients have become family. My relationships with a lot of the people I do business with in Canada are friends and even more than that, and have become a great referral network. And it's important to have that comfort level with the individual that's sitting across from you. We're not going to get it perfect every single time. And most of the time when we do fuck things up, it's definitely not intentional. It's because there's outside forces of things that happen. And then you usually want to blame the mortgage guy or the realtor generally if things go wrong. And there are times where we get it wrong. But it's very infrequent because our intention is to have you say our name when you think of real estate.
Correct.
Right. And our intention, but you also get people that like moving down is challenging. And I tell you from my own experience that if you ever want to learn a lot about yourself, your marriage, your certain network of people, if you want to learn about them and yourself, do something that they wish they could have done, but didn't do, and you do it. Holy man, does that uncover a lot about people and yourself.
You're right.
And it is hard to establish new businesses, especially in a new country. It is hard to establish things when you don't have that support network. But when you start building layering on like, this sort of interaction that we have, and we have trust level between the two, and we can say, hey, look, you call Laurent, it's taken care of.
There you go. That's the goal, right?
Taken care of. I know that phone call's coming back.
Night.
This person has been pre-qualified. Here's the building that we got them. Here's what their net rate of return is going to be. And then at the end, they don't have to worry about it. Right? We got them. We got them as boots on the ground.
That's
here.
the goal.
Yeah, absolutely.
100%.
So how can people get a hold of you when they need to get a hold of you, and we can start the conversation going about financing?
I think the best thing is calling area code 305-690-1424 or my email, Lawrence, LAWRENCE @hypotec.com.
And we'll have that in the comments for everybody.
We'll have it all correct.
All right.
And
Thank you so much for your time, brother. It was amazing.
Thank you.
And we'll do dinner.
Absolutely.
Take it easy.
Take care.